Hey, FemFreq Radio listeners, it's summertime, and up here in the Northern Hemisphere, things are pretty hot. Why not soothe your weary minds by dipping into the Patreon community, where all the cool FemFreakers hang out? You get early access to new episodes, bonus tomfoolery from me, Carolyn, and Anita, merch discounts, listener polls, and the occasional surprise treat. You'll also get the chance to pat yourself on the back for supporting feminist pop culture analysis. If you want to be part of transforming the entertainment landscape, then support like yours is crucial to making sure that progressive voices are heard and challenging criticism finds a platform. Head on over to patreon.com/femfreak and sign up at any level to show your commitment to being critical of the media you love.
But it's such an authentic, yes, there's this gendered way of perceiving, Iron Fist is a band because they're all boys. And then whatever the band that their band is, that they're a girl band because they're girls and they're in a band. Therefore, it's a girl band.
Welcome to Feminist Frequency Radio. This is the show that asks you to be critical of the media you love. I'm Anita Sarkeesian, and joining me to uphold the rec center's reservation system are the prettiest girls in town, Carolyn Petit.
Hey, hey.
And Ebony Adams.
Hey, hey.
This week, we're talking about the delightful 2013 Swedish film, We Are the Best.
We're the best.
We're the best.
We are the best.
I should have moved my mouth away from the microphone when I did that. Sorry, everybody. Anyways, stay tuned. Carolyn got a haircut. It was very pretty.
Aw, thanks,
What?
Anita. Yeah.
I should have moved away from the microphone. I have not seen this. Is it on your Instagram?
Well, no. I mean, it was a story, but I think it expired. I put
It's
it
on Twitter.
But yes. So if you scroll back like a couple of days on my Twitter feed, you can find it. All of our adoring listeners can find it.
We'll link it in the show notes for you all to see Carolyn's beautiful haircut.
Yeah.
Carolyn legit has the best hair.
She really does have great hair.
Thanks.
It's long and thick.
It's like blonde though. You know how when people talk about blonde hair, it's usually that like dishwatery kind of brown that I'm like, I don't know why you're calling this blonde. Like Carolyn's hair is fucking like white blonde.
Mm-hmm.
Just so everyone can
because she's one of the fae.
Yeah, you might actually be a real fairy.
Yep.
I heard a rumor that you are leaving us, Carolyn.
Yeah, Anita. Yeah. So, gosh, sorry. This is kind of an awkward way to tell you here as we're recording this podcast. But this is my last FFR as an official, cast member. After
You'll be
all
back.
Time.
We will drag you back kicking and
Don't
screaming.
say it like that.
Oh, no. I'm not like, oh, shit.
You'll be back.
I don't mean like because
No,
you'll
I
lose
know
your
you.
job.
I know you don't mean that. I know.
Just because we can't, it's not the same without you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
well,
we can't bear to be about you. And I wasn't kidding in Slack when I was like, this podcast is going to be all trash all the time without you with
Ebony,
your influence.
we need to find, is there another human on earth who is sincere? Because I don't know what we're going to do with just us.
But not just sincere, but actually is a excellent cultural critic. You know, like I don't want just some,
and Carolyn knows
cornball,
everything about movies.
Yeah,
a fair amount. I have a lot of blind spots, but I know a fair amount.
Maybe we just shut it all down.
Shut it all down, or have an increasingly more awkward series of auditions on air.
Live? There'll be live auditions that you all hear.
Yeah, and then people can vote in for the person to take over the.
I asked someone else affiliated with our org, like, hey, do you want to fill in for a little bit as we figure out what we're doing, maybe get some guests? And they were like, I'm not a cultural critic. I'm not an expert or anything. I have opinions. I was like, what do you think we do?
Yeah.
We literally.
You think we prep for this? You think we're qualified to do this? Come on.
Anyways, I am so fucking happy for you, Carolyn. And I can't wait. Honestly, with the direction that Kotaku's going and bringing you on, I'm actually really excited to see how that site, slowly transforms a little bit. And I'm so excited to have regular Caro thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited about what, what's going on over there, about what Patricia, the editor-in-chief, is doing. I think, Kotaku's these past few weeks been really killing it with their coverage of everything that's been happening in the industry. So, I'm just joining an already amazing team. So I definitely look forward to whatever we can get up to over there.
Go tell them how much you love Carolyn and, support what she's doing over there when that starts tomorrow. Well, which will have been 3 days ago when you hear this, or more, because big surprise to everyone.
People listen as soon as the episode drops. As soon as the episode drops, people are just leaving everything behind and plug it in.
I mean, really, it's true. Anyways, we're so gonna miss you, and I don't actually know. Carolyn told me while I was in the middle of 100 things and haven't really had time to process. So even now, I'm just like, wait, what's happening? Wait, where's she? I don't know what.
I'm choosing not to think about it in the way I handle all difficult.
I sent Ebony a message being like, as soon as Carolyn told me, and I got off the phone, I was like, Ebony, do not leave me. I was like, you can't go too.
And I was like, well, funny news. I'm going to Kotaku.
Well, so am I, according to my dreams.
Yeah.
I sent Carolyn this really rambly voice memo this morning about how I had a dream that Kotaku was trying to hire me. And I was like, but I don't want to live in San Francisco, and I'm not a good writer, and I don't think this is a good idea.
Well, FFR will now be a Kotaku podcast. But for real, I also just want to take this opportunity to say that, gosh, I'm sure gonna miss doing this show each week with both of you. It's been a real pleasure and a privilege to talk movies and stuff with you every week. So it's the feeling is mutual. Certainly, I will miss both of you as well.
Wow.
Speaking of a Kotaku podcast, Anita, what if Carol does join a Kotaku podcast? Like, obviously not this one, but like, what if she does join another podcast and it becomes like hugely successful?
Oh, shut up. That's not going to happen.
Listen, you don't know that it absolutely could.
If that happens, I will be very happy for Carolyn.
I will too, but I will laugh so hard I'll pee myself, because it will be amazing if she's like, yeah, I'm on a real podcast now with people who actually... Anyway, let's get to the nitty-gritty.
Look, we all know who we are and what we're doing here. Everybody knows.
You would think so. But sometimes, I'll read folks' responses on the Discord board, and I'm like... It's like you've forgotten who we are as hosts. We are very clear. We don't know what we're doing, except for Caro, the one person who knew and is now leaving. So I'm going to need everybody to scale back and simmer down on their expectations for like a good 6 to 7 months until we find our way back.
We're also going to need all of your recommendations, because we're lost now and don't know what to talk about anymore.
Yep.
All right. Well, so on the last few episodes, we wanted to let Carolyn choose what, the topics. And I wasn't here for last week's, which I'm sure was wonderful. And this week's, the way that this week's episode was pitched to us was, it's a Caro movie, but I think you'll like it still. Carolyn, can you talk a little bit about what we watched?
Yes. So the film I chose for this week for my final episode is a film called We Are the Best. It's a 2013 film by writer-director Lucas Moodysson, who adapted the screenplay from a graphic novel by his wife, Coco Moodysson. It's one of my favorite films of the 2010s. It's a film that I think is just so exuberant and joyous, but it's about a trio of, young teen girls living in Stockholm in 1982 who form on this very impromptu basis this punk band. The two the core initial friendship of the film is between these two girls named Clara and Bobo, and they are sort of these like diehard punks. The way they dress and their political engagement with the world and everything kind of sets the two of them apart as punks from the other girls at their school, from all the other kids basically in their community, and it's sort of this fateful event happens where one day at this rec center, this like youth rec center where they hang out, they're so bothered by the music being played by Iron Fist, the like the kind of mainstream, I don't know, hard rock band that these other kids are in, that they hatch a plan to like get into the rehearsal room by saying, "Oh, look, Iron Fist didn't sign up for their rehearsal slot. We're signing up for it. We have a band. We totally have a band." And from that little seed of just kind of like
being
rambunctious reaction to the status quo that Iron Fist and their music represents, spring something really quite that ends up being quite wonderful. And I thought it would be appropriate. Sorry, I thought it would be appropriate, for me, for our last film, because I just feel like thematically it's got a lot of the stuff that we care about. I mean, these characters, like I said, they're politically engaged. They, even in their own little way, they're making songs that they kind of hope carry a message and kind of hope challenges things. And they're girls who often find themselves like at odds with what society expects or dictates, young girls and women should be. So I just I felt a lot of like our spirit almost in a way in the trio of that this film centers.
So you're saying,
which one's which?
Like,
thank you. I was gonna say, like, my favorite thing is when we watch movies that feature like a trio and deciding which one of us matches the character.
I know the answer to this. Are you ready?
Okay, I do too.
Ebony is Hedwig because
that's right.
She's the musician. What? You're the musician. You're the only one that actually knows how to sing and shit. Carolyn is obviously Bobo.
Exactly.
And I'm obviously Clara because she's
exactly
a fucking asshole.
No, okay, I agree with you that you are Clara, but I'm Bobo.
No, not even a little
Caro
bit,
is
Ebony.
Hedwig.
No.
Caro is the quiet, talented one. The one who doesn't like, but who
Carol
ultimately
the
is more maturity.
One.
Sorry, Carolyn. I'm the heartsick. I'm the one who goes to my room and listens to sad music really loud.
Totally.
Listen, I'm gonna send you a picture of what I looked like when I was Bobo's age, and you're gonna be like, That's a white Ebony right there. Ebony is a white Bobo. That looks just like me. And I was just, listen, I loved this movie so much. So again, shout out to Caro for, suggesting A Very Caro Movie. Hallmark needs to get on this train every December. And instead of Hallmark holiday movies, it needs to be A Very Caro Movie. It's just back to back to back. Because I loved it. Y'all know, because we've talked, occasionally about films that feature predominantly adolescent teenage cast. And I'm like, there is a stark difference between movies that are made about kids and movies made for kids. And, I think we really need to explore that divide and what it means. But regardless of whether, where you fall generationally, because there were times when I felt just like Bobo, and there were times when I felt just like the 40-year-old parents in this, looking at this stuff. And it was just, it was so authentically sweet.
Yes.
This film. And the way that, oh my God, this film so wonderfully captures how childhood, your emotional calibration, insists that the most low stakes things have world changing stakes, for you.
And really,
everything seems so huge.
There's a quote on this. There's a quote from a review in Bitch Media years ago when this came out that says the film feels like being 13, mimicking that aching loneliness, boredom, and brash confidence that comes from feeling like it's you and your friends against the world. And
absolutely.
I was like, that encapsulates this movie so well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it does that. While there's no judgment in this film. There's no these kids, don't have it all figured out. There's no this film respects Clara and Bobo and Hedwig so much. It wants us to fully identify with them. This film has so much kind of, I'd say, compassion and respect for its characters, which is a huge part of why I love it so much.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Finish.
Well, I was going to say, I love what you were saying about like identifying with the kids and with the adults, because so near the end of the film, like there's a little bit of like ramping that happens where they go and they meet this other punk group, and they're like, who are you gonna date? I'm gonna date this one, and they divide up the boys between the three of them, and then one of them, there's only two boys, and like Bobo gets left out. And like the everything that comes after that, like I just watched it kind of laughing at them all, because I'm like, I remember
sure.
like, you know, like you're just like, it is like what you're saying, Ebony, it's like everything feels like the end of the world and the biggest deal ever, but it's so hard to not laugh at it as an adult, having gone through so much more. But at the time, like, it's fucking real. Like, and it's not making fun of them, but it is like, it is a perspective of like, okay, y'all, you will get over this and it'll be fine, even though it feels like the end of the world right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gosh, this movie, I mean, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way at all, but these girls are so cute. The youth on their faces, you know, the way that they sort of stumble through this incredibly important and intimate relationship they have among the three of them, and particularly among Bobo and Clara, who, you know, as Caro mentioned, sort of get things kicked off. Hedwig comes in afterwards, after they see her perform at the school talent show, and realize that she's, you know, like basically a guitar prodigy. And Clara immediately, well, doesn't immediately, but once they decide to invite her to the band, Clara's stipulations are like, we got to prevent her from being Christian. We got to, like, she can't be in the band if she believes in God. And she's just kind of a little shit about it. It's fantastic. But the one thing I wanted to say real quick is that you do get a sense of sort of the larger world that these girls inhabit, even at the same time that you recognize that it is fundamental to your sense of self as, you know, 11, 12, 13-year-old, that you do think the universe kind of revolves around you. It must, as you try and figure things out. But I love the sort of images we get, you know, just the glancing touches we get of Bobo's mom, you know, and the way she lives, and, you know, the things she occasionally struggles with, like, you know, the breakup of this one relationship, or Clara's weirdo parents, like her dad,
her dad in his underwear,
and her mom. Like, yeah, right. You know, just it felt so full and rich, and at the same time that, you know, as a person who could have a child, you know, Clara's age, and I'm like, oh, please, you know, don't mess up this kind of thing, or don't take this too seriously, or don't make this kind of decision. At the same time that I'm feeling that, there's, you know, the tension of the inner 13-year-old that I still am, that's like, oh my God, Clara, yes, like, go for it. Just like, get up in people's faces, you know, demand that people pay attention to you. You know, don't apologize for anything. I was by no means as bold as these girls turn out to be. And certainly not as Claire is. Like, I definitely was that kid. Like, I think there's like 3 versions, you know, of who you can be as a kid. I was definitely a follower, you know? Like, I always depended upon having like that badass friend to lead me into temptation, the valley of darkness. And I depended upon them so much because I never had the sort of strength or ambition to do that kind of thing myself. But okay, last thing before I quit rambling. Sometimes in films that focus on young girls, particularly young girls who don't conform to social expectations in terms of the way they look or the interests that they have, the music that they listen to, the identities that they craft for themselves, if those identities that they craft are not perceived as being like mainstream, girly, feminine in a way, sometimes, you know, the project can tilt too far into a realm of making, you know, the main characters not like other girls, you know? And I was ready for this, and I was a bit worried that this was going to happen, you know, because it's like, oh, we're cool girls because we're tomboys, you know?
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But girls who like pop music or who like makeup, they're silly. They're not as, you know, serious or as smart or as cool as we are. And I was a bit worried that was going to happen in the talent show when we see, you know, Clara and Bobo, watching, you know, like this group of girls in spandex perform this dance routine. But what's important about that moment is that the derision they have for them is something they have for every single act, you know? And it's the kind of way that you respond when you're a kid, when you dismiss everything that's not what you like.
Yeah.
It's not just these girls. It's also the kid who's doing magic, you know? It's also, it's everyone, right? It's like, you know, everyone who's not me and my best friend is a fucking idiot, and your music is shit, your clothes are shit, and whatever. And so, again, it was just a small thing, but it was something I appreciated. Because like I said, too often, you know, it becomes this thing where it's like, oh, so-and-so is not like other girls, and that's meant to be a compliment. And it's like, no, fuck that, you know?
There's something interesting happening in the relationship between Bobo and Clara. This movie made me miss Sweden so much. I'll talk about that later. But I thought Bobo's character was so fucking interesting, and they did such a good job with it. Like, Clara is not as complex as Bobo is in the grand scheme of the movie, even though I think she's really interesting and there's a lot to her. Mm-hmm. But Clara is like kind of a bully, and like she is kind of the leader of the group, right? And like Bobo's like willing to go along with everything and not like fighting her on it, and is like, you know, rambunctious and whatever. But Clara's like calling all the shots. And I think what's really interesting is as you see Bobo like navigating that, right? Where there's times when she loves it, where she's like super down with it and likes that her best friend will bring her into this space. And there's other times where she feels like she's being talked over, she's being forced into particular roles.
She recognizes sometimes that Clara's being kind of rude and inappropriate, and you can kind of sense Bobo's like embarrassment a little bit in some ways, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see that more with Hedvig, who is who's like, you know, really just like the scene where they're begging for money and like those kinds of moments.
I was thinking like particularly with Clara's treatment of Hedvig at times, like Bobo, at least at first, Bobo was like, oh, come on, Clara, be nice. Yeah. Don't say all this stuff you're saying, that sort of thing. But
Oh, totally. That scene was difficult.
Yeah.
But there is this interesting thing that's happening, I think, because Bobo is like trying to figure out who she is. She's like comparing herself. Like they're both not like girly, right? By any means, and like short hair and all this stuff. But like Bobo clearly like presents a little bit differently and is treated differently in the world in some ways because of the way she looks. And you see her looking at herself in the mirror a lot, trying to like find herself and to see what's there and to be like, is this enough? And you know, when all the shit goes down with the boys and all of that, it's interesting. I really liked the trajectory that Bobo was going on, trying to be like, I'm a part of a unit, but this unit may not be the best thing for me, right? That there might be more to this, that, you know, like the other thing of this personally is like, oh my God, I like, not exactly, but I was totally these kids, right? Like I had like, there was a summer in which everything changed for me, and me and my friends were like the freaks and the skids, and like we got made fun of and we got yelled at by kids at school, like while we were walking down the halls and shit. And it's just like, it was just this movie, I was like, oh my God, I know this. Like I know these people. I understand this, even though it's a little bit different. I do think that there's something really special about like the gender identity, not gender identity, but gender performance that's happening. Like, you know, part of what I was saying before is that, you know, they're going to see these boys and Clara puts on makeup and Bobo's like, but we don't believe in that. How dare you compromise our our morals and values, right? And like, I don't know about you, but when I was 13, like that was everything. Like, don't be normal was our, like, me and my friends like tagline, you know, like it's so stupid and whatever, but there's like the betrayal of how dare you do this thing that we are against. And I thought it was so I was like, they captured this age so fucking well.
And the performances, like the actor Mira Grossen, who played Clara, was 11 when she played this role. And the way she fully inhabits that little firecracker of a character blows my mind, you know, like all of the performances of the core cast.
I mean, I was surprised that they were 13 because they're very like they're prepubescent looking. And so 13, I feel like is that cusp of like, I don't know. They seemed younger than 13 to me. So I was surprised.
You know what? I was thinking that too, but then I thought we are so accustomed to like Hollywood teenage years, wherein people are 17 playing 12-year-olds.
Yeah, totally.
Or
But you
27 playing 18, right? But I mean, so we
you just
see,
said one of the actors is 11, so that actually is like she was younger.
She was younger, but the point I was trying to get to is that 13 is that age when some of your friends do look 16, and some look 10, But I really appreciated, I appreciated how young they just their faces. I mean, when they're like yelling, hate sports, abort, fuck, most of us, whatever. Like, but still, they just look like little chubby angels with their little round faces. But I loved that there was no makeover scene, is what I was going to get to. When you were talking about the makeup, I was just like, I don't think this movie is going to go there, but please, God, please do not have there be a moment where Bobo and her interest for, Elias, or Claire's interest in Elias, where there's that, that sort of standard Hollywood, switch. And they start to present, in a more feminine manner. And thank God we do not get that.
Absolutely. But even, it doesn't matter that they sort of reject the conventions of, they don't perform femininity the way their peers do and all of that. They still, I think it's so fascinating how when they go, they're getting ready to go to the like Santa Rock concert at the end of the film, the two adults who run the rec center refer to their band as a girl band. Right?
God, that was annoying.
It's right, but it's such an authentic, like, of course, like, yes, there's this gendered way of perceiving, Iron Fist is a band because they're all boys, and then whatever the band that their band is, that they're a girl band because they're girls and they're in a band, therefore it's a girl band.
I love that they pushed back too.
Yeah,
that they were like, fuck, like they were like, no,
no, of course, and of course they do, but
and then followed by that amazing scene where those two dudes, in a very patronizing way, attempt to teach the girls how to play, including teaching Hedvig, who, as we said, is an incredible guitar player.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to show you a couple of chords, and then she proceeds to
my God.
rip. So good.
That was amazing. Yeah, and everyone is just sitting there waiting for that moment to happen. And like those dudes are such doofuses. And that guy in particular, like he was so, I think it was really valuable to have that character that was so he loved Iron Fist. He thought they were the fucking coolest. And he was so dismissive of them at every turn and just kept going and going. Like, it was a really nice, like, these moments to show like what they're up against, like they're not like some of the shit they're making up in that, again, like, why are parents, right? They're like, like, we hate parents was another like lyric that they had or whatever. But that this was a real thing. Like, they were being dismissed because of how they looked and because of their gender and all of that.
And because they're making art, I mean, whatever, like, or, the vein of art that they're experimenting in at their age is like, it's not as commercial. It's not as like mainstream. It's not as crowd pleasing as like what Iron Fist is doing or whatever. But to them it has value, and to them there's value in the very fact that art is not trying to appeal to those who are looking for the more conventional pleasures of like whatever, like more mainstream rock music and what have you.
Yeah. I feel like Ebony, you keep bringing up like, we would expect this to happen or this to happen, and that you're like pleased that it doesn't. And as I was watching this, I was just thinking about how like I really appreciate international cinema. Like, I appreciate like the different filmmaking styles that develop out of different like countries and traditions, and like Hollywood just kind of cannibalizes all this shit. Like, there's such a Hollywood aesthetic, even for some of the more more revered films in Hollywood that are like critically acclaimed, that aren't just like Marvel blockbusters, but that there is such a different tone and style to films from different places, right? And that's what we get here. Like, it's a Swedish filmmaker and a Swedish author, and like, it's just, I just really appreciate that.
I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, that one of the great, pleasures of cinema for me is in the opportunity to explore cinema from other countries, from other cultures. I mean, it's a way. It really is almost a way of like, at times experiencing the world, in a way that like, we can't just kind of, I don't know. It's a way of tapping into to just not just the rich culture of cinema, but the rich culture of the world in which we live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciated that, because I'm not Swedish, and, didn't grow up in 1980s Sweden, that there were cultural references that I did not get in this film.
Yeah.
Even if you're watching with, subtitles, you're not going to catch, some of the like resonances of particular songs being played. Or, the ways that certain conversations happen. And I really appreciated that. But you make a good point, Anita, which is that at the same time that I was watching this movie, I was also watching the film in my head that was the Hollywood mainstream version of this, So as I said, like, in sort of CW version of this, the girls would have been aged up. They would have been, more sort of standard, like Hollywood pretty. There would have been a makeover scene. There would have been more made of the sort of brief, relationship with the dudes. Like that would have formed like a bigger core of the story. So yeah, there's a way in which like, I'm so accustomed to the media that I have consumed that I really need to be very conscious and deliberate about not watching, this film, for instance, or not watching it and consuming it and understanding it as something that it is not versus what it is. But it's very hard to move past that sometimes.
I think I want to add to that list too, and I think this is like a big thing is if it was a Hollywood made film in this aesthetic of Hollywood, it would have had a bigger conflict. It wouldn't we don't really, Hollywood doesn't really do like day in the life very well, right? Or very often. It would have been like, okay, they established the characters and like the 3-story structure or 3 acts or whatever. Yeah. And like, and the movie wasn't like, I thought it was interesting, and it does like kind of go up a little near the end, right? Like there's a little more like drama that happens, but it's not about any of that. It's about the just like day-to-day shit that these kids are going through, and Hollywood doesn't do that. Like it doesn't, so that's why most of like a lot of the movies you love are not from here.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, for me, there's rarely anything as just pleasurable and enjoyable in a film as feeling like I'm like observing characters who are as like complex and well drawn and 3-dimensional and believable as these characters are, just kind of like having, their relationships and their lives and their conversations with each other and navigating just, what it is to be a person, or in this case, a young, a young girl, in this world, like, and all the kind of the pressures and the expectations and that come with that. It's such a joy.
The one of the moments for me about Sweden that I was like, was they were sitting around eating those fucking tasteless dry ass crackers with butter, which is so like, I've definitely bought those from IKEA. Like that's what they eat there. And I like, it just made me be like, I miss that dry ass bullshit. I was like, Sweden. I immediately texted all my Swedish friends and I was like, I miss you. But there was a couple of things I made note of just for fun. It's political for us to hang out with the less fortunate.
Oh my gosh.
About like, they were like, she's Christian, and so it's the right thing to do. And also she's a loner. So it's like, that's what we should do. And then when Bobo cuts her hand and says, I don't want to die, and she's freaking out, and you're just like, what is you just got a little cut, buddy. You're all right. But
listen, there was so many things like that were just delightful.
Yeah, and there's these moments where I'm like, oh, like you are like committed and you're in this band and you're going to take down the establishment and all this shit. And then there's these moments where they're just fucking kids, right? Like just like literally like children playing. And it's such an interesting dynamic that that they are on the cusp of that, right? They're on the cusp of becoming adults, right? And getting to a place where they wouldn't keep doing that. I thought it was really funny to watch them like panhandle to buy a guitar. And then they're like, and then Hedvig is obviously, Hedvig's a little bit older, which you can also tell. And she's like, well, we could save it. And then they just go buy like a pile of candy, which I'm like, absolutely. That's what would happen. Right. So, yeah. And then I guess some other points I wrote that I thought were interesting was like, you know, Bobo was like, I'm never going to get a boyfriend. I'm ugly and disgusting. And like, as a 13-year-old, you like, as an adult looking at a 13-year-old, you're like, dude, you got so much time in your life. Like, you're fine. But when you're 13, it's the biggest fucking deal, right?
Absolutely.
Like, and then the fact that like they kept talking about these characters as if they were in love with each other. And like, they're just like, are you in love with him? Is he in love with you? And like, he cheated on you with me. And you're just like, oh my God, none of this is real.
Yeah,
but
like they just sat in a room, like listening to a record and like he put his arm around her, you know, whatever. And like, this is like to them, a like massive relationship drama and betrayal and
it is when you're that age.
I mean,
you
Bobo,
know, like
I mean, Bobo is very like there's that moment when they're like all on the roof when the three of them go and there's only the two boys and they're on the roof.
Oh my God.
And Bobo, like you can tell Bobo deliberately asks something like, oh, it's good that you're not into this musical artist. You know, Clara is, right? Like she's trying to like undermine, but you like empathize with it. I mean, you like at least I do. Like I'm like, gosh, Bobo, I know how left out you feel and how alienated you feel. So if you know, and you're just whatever, you're a child. Like it's understandable that you're gonna like do these things to kind of.
Well, and you don't know any better than to be like, you have no self-esteem. So it's not like you're like, fuck it, I'm out of here. I kept being like, just leave, baby, just leave. You don't need this shit. And then when she calls him to be like, oh, you're not in love with him anymore. Maybe I can get in on this. You're just like, it's like, it's kind of heartbreaking, but also like, I'm sort of laughing a little bit at the whole thing. It's
sure.
Yeah. I mean, one thing though, even though you watch them have like these first kind of tentative forays into romance that have been like blown up and exaggerated in their minds. And you're like, oh my God, you're 13. This is, you know, not the end all be all. This is not the, you know, last person that you're ever going to find attractive or who'll ever find you attractive or whatever. Right. There's also, I think really importantly, the film honors the way in which our patterns can be set very early. So the loneliness that Bobo feels, the way that she feels as if she's never chosen first, that other people are always choosing for her, that she's always in the background, that no boys will ever like her. It's not as if that's just those feelings are going to evaporate when she gets older. I mean, yes, you absolutely do. You know, things grow and change, but the way that you are at 40 is in many ways like those things are starting to form when you're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And I think the film like sort of gently does, you know, suggest like how this is both, you know, a very like passing kind of ephemeral thing for Bobo and for the rest of these girls, but that also there is something larger here. Like they are sowing the seeds of who they will be. And those seeds are being watered by everything that's happening to them right now. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't want to suggest that like, you know, Bobo's going to turn into like, you know, an old woman, you know, 87, be like, no one loves me, you know, whatever. But yeah, like it's not out of the realm of possibility that like she would grow up into adulthood and be like, I just never felt like I really connected with people, that I was ever seen with people. That shit happens too.
It sure does. But I mean, I think, you know, I have a lot of hope for, I think that the film is offering us a picture of this moment in their lives that, and a very important moment in their lives, but also one that, I mean, I don't know, but when the intensity of feeling that I had around things when I was 13 is far removed, you know, from my life right now, most of the time that it's, one of the reasons why I thank God every day that there was no social media when I was coming up.
So much.
And that the journals that I kept as a child
have been destroyed because, my God,
Yeah.
the drama.
I loved the dad when he comes into the room and is like, Hedvig's mom wants to call the police. and you're like, at first it's serious. And then he's just like, yeah, I guess you should just go like, say you're sorry or something. I don't know. Like, it's just, he's like, this is so stupid, this whole thing. Yeah. And I kind of loved that.
Laughing at the whole mess these girls have gotten themselves into and how ridiculous it is. And like,
he even says like,
Even's like, she can't call the cops because you cut her hair or whatever.
Because she doesn't like her haircut.
yeah, right. But, you know, I mean, he genuinely seems to me like the cool dad. Like, the way that he just kind of takes things in stride, the way he wants to like jam with the girls, even though that's the most embarrassing thing in the world to them. Or, you know, I mean, it's
and of course she thinks her parents are the worst when we're like, but those are the cool parents.
Right.
Like, and even Bobo's like, your parents are the cool parent. And both of their parents are like chill. Yeah. You know, Bobo's mom is kind of a piece of work, but
she's got stuff going on, I think.
But she still like seems somewhat present, even though not exact, you know, whatever. And so, you know, that was an interesting piece of this is like, they're just like, the parents are fine and the kids are 13 and hate them because of course you hate your parents when you're that age, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I loved this movie. I'm so glad you recommended it, and I suggest everyone watch it. So if you have access to Vudu, which VUDU, which is an unfortunate name, it's free if you watch ads, if that's something you want to do and don't want to pay for it. But I highly suggest and recommend it.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back.
What's up, FFR listeners? We've got so much great conversation coming your way this month on Feminist Frequency Radio. Why not sign up to get early access and bonus episodes? Oh, and help us keep making the show? Head on over to patreon.com/FemFreak today and sign up.
What's your freak out?
Now it's time to talk about what's been thrilling us, moving us, upsetting us, or infuriating us this past week. I have a freak out.
Give it to us.
And my freak out is partially in honor of Carolyn, but the movie Desert Hearts, which is directed by Donna Deitch.
Yes.
It's from 1985, and I feel like I saw someone like tweet about this, and then Carolyn was like, best movie ever, and I was like, why have I never heard about this? And then I watched it, and holy shit, Carol.
Yeah.
This movie is outstanding. Like, I didn't know what to expect, you know, whatever. And I can't believe I've never heard of it, let alone seen it before now. It is this beautiful love story between these two women. It starts with a woman who's like going through a divorce, and she goes to one of those like divorce camps in Las Vegas back when you had to live. So back in the day, you had to gain residency in Las Vegas to get a divorce within like 6 weeks, I think 6 or 8 weeks or something like that. That's how marriage became something that you could do immediately, because this is fun fact of history about Vegas, is that they had these divorce like ranches. And while these women were living there waiting to get divorced and their husbands were back home, they would meet another man or another person and then want to get married to them right away. And that's how marriage became a thing that you can do overnight in Vegas. So it actually started with divorce, which I think is funny. Anyways, so Desert Hearts takes place in one of those ranches where this really like stuffy, uptight, academic, prim and proper, bougie ass woman is staying at this ranch that's like, you know, a little rustic, and she falls in love with the stepdaughter of the owner. And she'd never, like, as far as we know, dated women before. And so it's just this very beautiful, lovely, like two different people from two different worlds, like finding each other and like figuring out that, and the struggles of the community and the internal struggles of each of those women, and how the community sees them and how they want to be seen by it. And like, I feel like this is one of the early like lesbian movies that's actually explicit. Like it shows them having sex. Like it doesn't shy away. Like there's an extended intimacy scene in it.
Right. It certainly is landmark. lesbian film. I don't know like that it was the first, but it has some quality, like the first maybe studio released like lesbian film, and I know too that like I think depictions of lesbian love maybe that preceded it often like ended sort of tragically, right? They had the trope of like, well, it's a doomed love affair, what have you. You know, not to give away the ending, but Desert Hearts, it does not have like a sort of it's doomed quality to it. And yeah,
and also like the filmmaking,
oh,
like
so
I don't know how to I honestly don't know how to talk about it. It's just it's so fucking gorgeous and
Yeah.
like
you get these-
emotional.
yeah, I mean, you get these shots, for instance, of the K, I think, is the name of the woman who's the out lesbian who lives there, who our sort of main, or the other character, who falls in love with, the one who's getting the divorce, and you see like just these shots of her like being this, like riding down these streets with the top down at night, and all the lights of the casinos and everything like reflected in her car, and the wind blowing in her hair, and you get these images that really convey, that are both aesthetically beautiful and that convey a lot about this character.
Yeah.
It's full of beautiful stuff like that. I mean, there's this scene in the, like, I think it's raining outside of the car, and one of them is standing outside the car, and one of them rolls the window down, and they kiss, and it's just one of those like iconic like romance, sort of situations that's so like beautiful and sexy, and the way too, I have to say that it handles the kind of tender like opening to new possibility for the character who is going through the divorce, like who obviously has these feelings, but who understandably, because of like just never having been in that situation before, because of the pressure of society, maybe it can't like admit those feelings to herself, and needs like kind of a gentle like nudging and encouragement, and like for Kay to create this feeling of like trust and safety, and like, no, you can be this, and if you feel this way about me, like you can have this, you can do this, you can express this. To me, it's so lovely.
I don't know why we've never done an episode on this movie. I think we should. It's just outstanding. It's outstanding. Have you seen it, Ebony?
Nope.
It's really good. I think you'd like it. I think
I would too.
It's not like a
Let's
Carol
save it for
movie
when Carol comes back on a guest episode.
Yeah. All right, cool. Who else has got a freak out?
Oh yeah, I'll go.
You can go.
Okay, yeah. So I just watched on Mubi, MUBI. There's a film that's currently available on there called Sweat, and Sweat is a joint production between Poland and Sweden, I believe, but it takes place in Poland. It's Polish language, and it's a film about it centers on a woman named Sylvia, who is a fitness influencer on, I don't think they ever specify that it's Instagram, but it's basically probably Instagram. She's this fitness influencer, and at a certain point, I mean, for one thing, she has like, the film really gets into like, first of all the work that goes into her kind of maintaining her social media like brand, and just like the constant output of like content to be that like influencer and to maintain the position that she has in that space. But also, like, at one point she has this like vulnerable human moment where she says some like true things to Instagram about like how she's feeling and what she's struggling with. And like it goes viral, but there's all these problems that emerge from it too. Like, some people maybe assume an intimacy or a shared closeness that isn't there. And there's a situation where a stalker arises. And this film, I think, is really kind of sharp about the dynamics of being a woman on social media, like an influencer, or just like anyone with like a big following, and navigating the kind of just the inherent like dangers and expectations of that space, and like, and there's also this scene or this moment that I found so interesting because, like, I mean, I've talked, to women before in real life, like women who have dealt with like online harassment and other situations about how, like, when they try to talk to the men in their lives about it, those men, because those men are also to some degree steeped in like patriarchy and violence, like their response wants to be like, well, I'm going to go kick this person's ass. Like, I'm going to go visit violence on these people, which often is not what, if you're a woman in that situation, what you want or need to hear, or what you want, the response to be when you share this. And I mean, the film really explores that too. Like the ways that men just respond or like handle it, and the kind of the patriarchy and violence and the threat of like sexual and emotional violence. So, and maybe this is making the film sound like really, really like unpleasant. And it's definitely like intense at times, but it is also a very compelling film. And the lead performance by the actor who plays Sylvia is like really layered and phenomenal. I mean, she brings the humanity, the depth, the complexity, you see the like performance of her being, Sylvie, the fitness influencer on Instagram, but also like all the ways in which like that kind of complicates her actual life, and the way sometimes the people in her life don't understand it. So I think Sweat is it's a really good and interesting and insightful film that's about, situations that are very real for a lot of women today.
Amazing.
My freakouts, as you know, are never extended. It's me just being like, oh, I read this. It was great. I saw this. It was great. So I've been watching the 2016 version of Maigret, which were adaptations of this series of French detective novels.
Ooh.
French? Belgian? French. And so there have been various, iterations of Maigret shows, but these 4 TV movies starred Rowan Atkinson as the titular detective. And this was, something of a novelty because Rowan Atkinson is known for his really broad comedy performances. And, one of the sort of defining characteristics of Chief Inspector Maigret is that he is a very, like, soft-spoken, contemplative, meditative man. And I think Rowan Atkinson does a fantastic job. But the thing that has really drawn me in, more so than, the crimes that he investigates over the course of these 4 episodes, is the absolutely exquisite production design on this show. So the series is set in 1950s Paris and its immediate environs, and it's filmed in Budapest. And so the way that they have recreated 1950s Montmartre and the clothes and, everybody's smoking and, just the structural nature of like women's undergarments, like the bras required like heavy engineering. It's so immersive. It's so beautifully done. And also the actor who plays Maigret's wife, Louise, her name is Lucy Cohu. I just love her whenever I see her pop up and stuff. So, not an extended review, but
where did you watch it, or where's it?
On BritBox. Which is one of those just like, million channels that are out there.
Huh.
And quiet as it's kept, I do it through my Amazon account, but BritBox has got some great content available. I watch Holby City on there. That's my hospital drama jam. I watch stuff like this. Vera's on there. Shetland's on there. Speaking of European crime dramas, Carol, when you were like, oh, I selected a Swedish movie for this week. At first I was like, oh, it's going to be right up my street. It's going to be some murder. There is no murder, and We Are the Best. But the actor who plays Clara's dad, actor named David Densick, is often to be seen in Scandinavian crime dramas. In fact, he appeared in a season of The Bridge. So It all is in my wheelhouse.
There you go.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that was my freak out. Mm-hmm.
You can always leave it to Ebony for the detective crime dramas.
There's going to be a connection. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon is 6 degrees of Scandinavian crime drama.
Absolutely. All right. And actually this week we've got a guest freak out from Kit.
Hi, my name is Kit, and recently I've been freaking out about The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells, which is a book series, and it's won a bunch of awards, so maybe everyone already knows about it, but I thought it might be interesting to listeners of this podcast who are also frustrated with how Star Wars will continue to insist that droids are people, and also refuse to deal with any of the horrifying implications of that. The protagonist of The Murderbot Diaries is part robot, part cloned human material, and it learns how to hack its own brain so that it no longer has to follow orders. What it does have to do, however, is learn how to make friends, which is very stressful for it because it has social anxiety. It's super cute, it's super heartwarming, it's also really action-packed and fun, and has themes of self-determination and what it means to be a person in a world that doesn't think you're a person, and how to deal with a world just completely driven by corporate greed. A lot of the typical space opera stuff. But yeah, I love it. It's The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells.
Amazing. Thank you so much for recommending that. I have actually read The Murderbot Diaries. I've read the first one. There are 6 books in the series, and it is a delightful short. Like I don't know if all 6 books are short, but I think that they're like little short. They're not novellas, but they're short. So they're easy to read, or quick to read. One of my favorite things about like everything that you said is very accurate. One of my favorite things is that the Murderbot like really just wants to sit around and binge watch Netflix.
Oh.
And it's amazing.
Same.
Every time she's like, I just want to get back to my cereals. I'm like, yeah, same, Murderbot, same.
I just want to watch my stories.
Yeah, exactly. Kit, thank you so much for sharing that. If you want to submit your own freak out, or if you want to just tell us how much you miss Carolyn, you can do that at feministfrequency.com/freakout. That's FREQOUT. Carolyn?
Anita?
I know we're going to be together in the bonus.
Yes.
But for those who aren't in the bonus,
Yeah.
we love you.
Well, thank you.
We love you
And
so
we're
much.
gonna
I
miss
love
you.
too.
And I don't know how I'm going to go on with my podcasting life without you.
Oh, well, I'm sure you'll be great. I'm sure whatever comes after my departure will be wonderful, and I look forward to it.
Uh-huh.
But I will miss you. I will miss you both very much as well.
Can we have but see, here's the thing, everybody. Ebony and Carolyn and I don't hang out on the regular or anything. I know it's a big surprise to everyone. And so I love these moments where we get to just deep dive and chat into things. So we're going to have to actually
schedule time to talk to each other.
we're going to have to make it happen.
Yeah, we'll have more. We'll have to have movie nights and stuff in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to Feminist Frequency Radio. Tune in next week when Ebony and I are going to scramble to figure out what the fuck this podcast is anymore. Please send us all of your lovely messages for Carolyn, either on our Patreon comments or on Twitter or wherever you want to send them to us. I'm sure it will be appreciated. Our show is engineered by Rob Pera. Carrie Stimson provides technical support, artwork by Jamie Varon, and our intro music is by Phil Circus. Thank you for listening.
Bye, everyone.
We are best.
We are best. We are best.
best.